trigonometric value to find others. It says let secant equals square root of 29 over 5. Now remember, psi y cos x, tangent is y over x, and secant is the reciprocal of cosine because sec c gets cosi, if you remember that. So that means this is the same thing as our h divided by x, or said another way, you could say that cosine of theta equals 5 over the square root of 29. Now, what does that do for me? It also tells me here that sine is greater than 0. Now, sine, if you remember, is y over h. H is always going to be positive. So for this to be greater than 0, y, you have to have a positive divided by positive to be still positive. That's what this is saying here. That's the key to understanding this, is that's saying it is positive. It's greater than 0. Okay, what does that mean? When I go to draw this, I'm going to have an x and y. I know my x is 5, and I know I have a positive 29. That means, for my reference, I have to go 5 this way. I know I work 5 units this direction. Now, I would not know if it was up or down until I go over here. This tells me it's positive. So my angle is going to look like something over here. Now, I'll just put it in dotted for my reference triangle. So the one thing we know right away is this is 5, and this is the square root of 29. If I wanted to get my y value, y over here, what would I do? I'd use Pythagorean theorem. I know that the square root of 29 squared is going to equal 5 squared plus y squared. Well, if I simplified, this is 29. So 29 would equal 25 plus some number squared. Y would have to equal 2, because 25 plus 4 give me 29. So y is equal to 2. Now that I know that, put that there. It says find the exact values of the 5 remaining trig functions. So now that I know this information, sine of theta is psi y, 2 over the square root of 29, which honestly, if we simplified this, is 2 square roots of 29 over 29. And then we would go on to cosine. Cosine we could have already had. All we'd had to do is flip that. So 5 over square root of 29, or we could look down here. Say this is my x, this is my h, x over h, but we want to leave it in that form. So multiply by square root of 29, and you get 5 square roots of 29 over 29 here. And then I move on to tangent. Tangent theta is psi y cos x, tangent is y over x. So it'd be 2 over 5, and that's a good form. And then the other two, I'm missing CSC, which is the reciprocal of sine. So it'd be the reciprocal of this, square root of 29 over 2. Now these are equal, so you could use the one. This is more simplified, so I just chose this one. And then finally, the last one remaining is cotangent. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, which is 5 over 2. So these would be my answers here. Circle these up. And that's how you get these values. So the last two were just reciprocals. The first ones you had to graph it here. Now again, I knew this was in the first quadrant because the sine was positive and the secant or cosine was positive. They're only both positive in the all quadrant. So it couldn't have been in the C quadrant because sine would have had to be negative, if that makes sense. So here's one for you to try. Now take note. This is like sine, it's negative. Tangent is also negative. So you got to figure out if sine is negative and tangent's negative, which quadrant does that have to be in?